In this video, we will review how to deploy SSH keys in CDP Public Cloud. We'll touch on how to generate a new SSH key pair and step through the process of deploying it for a workload user via the Management Console web UI, as well as via the CDP command line tool. To access cluster hosts using an SSH key, you can use the Cloudbreak user and the SSH key established during environment creation. However, the Cloudbreak user has full administrative access to the cluster, including root access on the ID broker host. That means anyone with that Cloudbreak SSH key can effectively access everything in the environment. Therefore, access to the Cloudbreak user should be restricted to a minimal group of admins. Other workload users should have access provided via their own passwords and SSH keys. To start with, I will use the Ssh Keygen command to generate a key pair. I'll specify a reasonable file name, and then I will specify the type of key pair, here using the ED25519 algorithm because it's the new security hotness. I'm going to leave the passphrase empty so the key can be used without a passphrase. And there we have the public and private key files. Next, I will cat the contents of the public key file and pipe that to the pbcopy command to put it on the system clipboard. Then I'll navigate to the user management section of the Cloudera Management Console. Once I find the user I'm looking for, I'll click on their name and go to the SSH keys section within their record. Then from there, just click on the Add SSH Key button. Here, I'll give it a meaningful name and then paste in the contents of that Ssh Public Key that I put on the clipboard a moment ago. And then I'll go ahead and save it. You'll see that it shows up in the list with its fingerprint so I can verify that it's the right SSH key. Next, I'll go back to the user management section, go to the Actions menu, choose Synchronize Users, and then I can select the environment where the user needs access. As soon as I click the Synchronize Users button, the user synchronization process will begin. That can take a few minutes, so let's skip ahead. Now that the user synchronization process has completed, let's confirm that the SSH key can be used for login. In this environment, I will pull up the details of a Data Hub cluster, and then under the hardware section, I will grab the public IP of one of the hosts. Then, going back to the terminal, I'll use the SSH command with the private key file from that key pair I generated to establish the connection to the host. And there you have it. So what if I have a large number of users who all need SSH keys? Obviously, I'd want to script that kind of repetitive task. Happily, the CDP command line tool lets you add SSH keys without going through the web UI. I'll generate a second SSH key. This time, let's say I need to use an older SSH client that doesn't yet support ED25519 keys. I'll generate a new key pair using the older RSA algorithm. Now that I've got that RSA key pair generated, I can use the CDP IAM add SSH public key command. Here in the help page for that command, you can see its options. Apart from the public key itself, you can specify an actor CRN, which will be the user for whom the public key is added. If it's not included, it defaults to the user making the request. I find the JSON input format for a lot of the CDP commands to be a little easier to read, so that's what we'll use here. What I'm going to do is use the Generate CLI Skeleton option to get the empty JSON input here, and then I will redirect that into a file. Next, I'll go ahead and edit that file. And here, the first thing I need to do is pull in the contents of the public key file. So I'll use the read command. And that didn't do exactly what I wanted. It didn't put it between the quotation marks, so I'll just clean that up. Add a comma. And then, as I mentioned, we'll omit the actor CRN option entirely. Give it a quick description. Write it out and exit. Then just quickly confirm that the contents of that look okay. And then I'm just going to read the contents of that file into a variable. Okay. And then I will proceed with using the contents of that variable as the CLI input JSON option. And there's our response from the system. And we can verify it by going back here, reloading, and there it is. There's the RSA key now added for that user. So that is how you add an SSH key via the CDP Public Cloud Management Console web UI, as well as the CDP command line utility. I hope this information has been useful. Thank you for watching.